Do you have any dreams?
Dreams? Like future dreams?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked me that.
American Honey, directed by Andrea Arnold, is a coming-of-age social realist film. It follows the journey of an 18-year-old girl called Star as she takes up a job opportunity as part of a mag crew, a group of young adults travelling across America, going door to door and selling magazine subscriptions. The purpose of this video essay is to explore what differentiates the film from classical Hollywood cinema and categorises it into an American independent. To do this, I will regularly consult Jeff King's identifiers of American independent cinema, and primarily look at the narrative structure in American Honey, as well as considering how image ties into the narrative and plays a key role in breaking classical conventions and heightening realism. Arnold became inspired to make the film after reading about the contentious job practice in the New York Times in 2013. In order to understand the subculture better, as she puts it, she hung around with mag crews as she travelled across the States. When casting for American Honey, she chose to combine established actors and actresses, such as Shia LaBeouf and Riley Keough, along with people she met on the street, including homeless people who fitted the aesthetic she was looking for. In fact, the main character, Star, is played by Sasha Lane, who made her acting debut on the film. Arnold's decision here was made in order to build a cast who were as authentic as possible to the lifestyle the film was trying to depict. American independent cinema, according to Jeff King, represents a challenge to Hollywood, although also one that has been embraced by the commercial mainstream to a substantial extent. He continues, some independent features are marked by their lack of strong, forward-moving narrative drive, opting instead for more relaxed or decentered structures. In Arnold's film, there is a continuous feeling of narrative drift present as we gain an in-depth insight into the venturous, chaotic, and spontaneous lifestyle the crew lead. The omission of a conventional Hollywood narrative structure creates a tangible sense of uncertainty, which emulates the feeling that the characters would be going through, therefore connecting the audience better to the story and creating emotional affinity with the characters. This break from classical convention also evokes a sense of improvisation and spontaneity, which turns out was the case on production. Actress Riley Keough revealed in an interview at Cannes Festival that the cast were not given scripts until the night before, or even hours before, and instead worked on a day-by-day basis. King argues that in independent cinema narratives, individuals exist or things happen in their own right, rather than in a context in which they're expected to lead explicitly somewhere, or become cogs in a linear, narrative-led machine. Consequently, the narrative in American Honey never seems to worry about closing off or tying up threads, or coming to any definitive resolutions. In terms of an independent aesthetic, American Honey operates beneath the Hollywood style. That is to say, it is making claim to the status of greater reality or authenticity, according to King. He explains that techniques associated with documentary realist forms have often been used in fiction features in an attempt to increase their claims to the status of verisimilitude, including, but not limited to, unsteady handheld camera work and inexact framing, used to create an impression that the filmmaker is capturing events as they unfold, unpredictably, before the camera. American Honey adopts this technique as the film employs a very grounded, documentary-like cinematography. In fact, this is a trademark of Arnold's filmography. By using very intimate and close-up camera work in American Honey, the audience feel much more enriched and invested in the narrative and character as a result. When we look at Star's character arc from the start to the end of the film, we can see that there isn't a great deal of change as you would come to expect in classical cinema. At the beginning, she is living a very impoverished life and has no real freedom of her own as she is forced to look after someone else's children. By the end, she is still with the mag crew, but the film's narrative still offers no insight into her future ambitions, and ultimately, she is still impoverished and almost without any direction as she was at the start of the film. The key difference now being that she feels free and able to plot a future without anything restricting her choices. But as a character, I would argue that she has just as uncertain a future as she did at the beginning of the film. Thus, American Honey operates in an independent film style for several reasons. The narrative structure deviates from classical Hollywood cause and effect, and instead adopts a spontaneous and uncertain narrative trajectory. The social realism of the film is heightened as a result. Overall, we as an audience can connect more closely to the text because of the American independent style of filmmaking it adopts.